Hello! Welcome to this channel. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Jackie. Not bad. I'm hoping with this video to provide a bit of an introduction to this channel and a little bit about myself and what hopefully you can expect from it, because let's take a moment to be real, it's gonna be a lot. However, I don't just plan to sit and stare at you and talk aimlessly for the next indiscernible quantity of minutes, because no, huzzah, it is October, the spookiest of seasons, and therefore, Halloween time. Anyone who knows me knows that I have a great love for anything Halloween, or spooky, or vintage, or spooky vintage. So in the spirit of the spooky autumnal October season, I will be introducing this channel in the only way that I can think possible, my favorite spooky pastime, carving a pumpkin. So, as I embark on the adventure of carving this splendidly spooky fruit, I can provide some visual entertainment for you as I introduce myself and this channel. So, without further ado, let's begin! How many times can you say pumpkin before it stops sounding like a real word? So to make a very long story short, this has been a year of new discoveries and lots of learning. The global pandemic, which if you have been fortunate enough to not have been impacted by, has given some people some new time to fill, and I chose to fill some of the new time that I found by diving headfirst into some new crafts and studies. However, I've always been that kind of person, regardless of a global pandemic. I always say I have way too many hobbies and interests and not enough time. I really like to think of myself as a Jackie of all trades. Well, pun or not, on that note, this year has been perfect for that exact thing. And I decided that I wanted to create a YouTube channel with the intent of sharing those projects, those new discoveries, and my journey of learning new things. And hopefully meeting some new people along the way, because I can't go out into the world and do it myself because there's a global pandemic going on, so might as well do it online. Hopefully, I can find some people who share my similar interests, because if what they say is true, if you're interested in something, there's most likely at least one other person out there that does too. So I'm counting on you. With this channel, I'm planning and hoping to share my process of learning new crafts and discovering new things, some of which are going to be sewing my own clothes that are most likely history-bounding and hopefully somewhat historically accurate, that are from the eras of Georgian, Edwardian, and Victorian, but also Japanese clothing like kimono and haori and monpei and hakama and nagajuban from the Japanese Edo, Heian, and Meiji eras, with maybe a little bit of taisho thrown in there as well. I also hope to share some baking and illustrations and other crafty works like maybe embroidery or oil painting. I told you, it's gonna be a lot, and I would like to get into a little bit of each of these. First, sewing. Towards the beginning of the lockdown, which was, I think, March, time right now is an ephemeral illusion, and I can barely remember what day it is when I wake up in the morning, let alone remember when all of this started, because in honesty, it feels like it was 2 years ago, but in fact it was only maybe a few months ago, well, more than a few months, probably more like 8 months ago. No. 4? No. Regardless, I think it was March that Costume College held its annual event completely online for free. Needless to say, I watched everything. For those of you who don't know what Costume College is, it's an annual event that is held on the West Coast that you have to pay to attend. It is a weekend-long symposium of lectures and classes and events that are for people who do historical sewing, costuming, and cosplay. I already followed some people who are within this community online, some historical costumers and history bounders, But having this entire resource online was like a fire hose of new information, and needless to say, it got me supremely motivated to get into sewing again. My knowledge of sewing is fairly basic. My expertise pretty much encompasses how to sew ribbons and elastics onto point shoes, some very minor tutu assembly from my time in ballet, how to sew masks because that's kind of a necessary skill to learn right now with the global pandemic, and how to do very minor repairs to clothing. I have been wanting to make my own clothes for a while. I feel like nothing I buy ever fits just right, and I'd like to have something in exactly my taste, style, and size. However, I felt like I wanted and needed to do some research before really deep diving into it. I'll get into more detail about this process and what I have learned in a later video, but for now, know that the Costume College virtual event, Cookbook 2020, completely changed my perspective on everything in an amazing way. I was so excited to begin. I was also introduced, thanks to Cookbook, to a few kimono experts and sewers, one namely being Billy Matsunaga. She's a kimono stylist and sewer who lives in Japan, and her videos detail everything from how to wear kimono, how to accessorize and store them properly, but also how to sew kimono, how to repurpose old kimono, how to sew haori, monpei, nagajubans, and hakama. It was really exciting to get to see some kimono experts and sewers during Cookbook 2020 because Costume College tends to be more Western-centric clothing from what I've seen, and it was really exciting to see some fellow kimono lovers out there. For those who know me, know my love of not only wearing and collecting kimono, but also of Japanese history, language, and culture. And I finally found a group of people who were just as interested in it as I was. Like I said earlier, if you have an interest, there's most likely at least one other person out there in the world who has that interest too. So don't give up. I found it. You can find it too. Another thing I hope to share is my baking. I'm an avid baker and I love to try new recipes. I'm also extremely interested in historical recipes, mainly from the Victorian and Edwardian eras, because of the way that they did all of their cooking and dining. It was so extravagant, and it's really fascinating to learn about. Not only how they made the food, which was a feat of engineering in itself without modern electrical appliances or very rudimentary electrical appliances, but just the time and the detail that they took with their courses and their foods are so different from what we do today. But also the flavors and how the meals tasted. Foods changed quite a bit over the past 100 or so years, and it's really interesting to see the flavors and spices that were really in the height of fashion during those time periods and what has gone out of fashion over the past 150 years. I have collected a long list of cookbooks that I wish to purchase that are within the Victorian and Edwardian cooking eras. Most recently is the Downton Abbey cookbooks and the amazing English Heritage, How to Cook the Victorian Way with the one, the only, Mrs. Crocombe. I love the English Heritage videos on YouTube, and watching their Victorian cooking series is one of my favorite pastimes. However, don't worry if vintage isn't your thing. I also love to make and try modern recipes or modern twists on classic recipes. I also love to make my own bread. That happened before the pandemic, I'd like to mention. I've been making my own bread for years now, and I love to share how to do that with people. It is also the fall autumnal season, friends, and that is when I tend to do most of my baking. It is also coming up on Halloween, and as a lover of spooky cakes, I will love to make some of those for you as well. By day, I am a designer and illustrator, and so I would like to share some of my traditional and digital illustrations with you. Nothing that I do for work, but more so personal projects or illustrations that pertain to the aforementioned projects. Either an outfit that I'd like to make for myself, or a cake design that I'd like to create, or maybe I'm making some homemade cards or decorations. Pretty much this channel, if you haven't realized it yet, is going to be a little bit of everything and is going to float between eras. So basically, the YouTube algorithm is going to hate me, but I don't care about that. What I do care about and what I want this channel to be is me sharing what I love to do, learning new crafts, and hopefully showing that you can do them too. And with that, I think our little pumpkin friend is completed. All that I think it needs is a light. I hope this video was somewhat entertaining and informational for you. and gave you a little bit of insight into not only myself, but what the channel will be in the future. And hopefully you're excited to see the next one. I'm thinking the next video will most likely be something along the lines of my journey into historical sewing and normal sewing from the viewpoint of a beginner. However, this is all I have for this one. I hope you've enjoyed this. If not, you can at least enjoy the pumpkin. If you are also a jack of all trades, or you are also the type of person that has way too many hobbies and never enough time, please let me know in the comments below. And do let me know what your favorite crafts and hobbies to do are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.